Today's video, we're going to be setting up files for our patterned wallpaper project. This project will have a total of 3 Photoshop documents that you'll need to manage at the same time, which sounds like a lot, but don't worry, we'll be making them step by step. And I think they'll be pretty self-explanatory once you see why we need 3 files for this one project. By now, you should have done your research and you should have at least 6 stock photos that you're going to use. I do recommend anywhere between 6 and 8. I think any less isn't enough, and I think any more is going to be too crowded and things are going to not show anyway, so it's kind of useless after that point. To keep things organized on my desktop, I'm going to put all these in a folder, and in case I haven't showed you how to do that before on a MacBook, I will now. Press down with 2 fingers on the trackpad at the same time to simulate a right click and hit New Folder. Under there, or while it's popped up, you can rename it. I am going to call them stock photos because that's exactly what these 6 are. Then I'm going to click and drag all 6 of these into the folder. I have this ready now for when I need it in just a bit. Next thing is we're going to open up Photoshop. It should look something like this once you open it up. I obviously in class will pause this and let you guys do this. We're going to create a new file. You can either go to create new here where I'm circling around, or the old school way, you go all the way to the top of your screen up here where it says Photoshop, File, Edit, Image. Go to File and then New. Old habits die hard. I end up always going up there even though this is probably quicker. When you get to your new file window, I only want you to pay attention to the contents over here where my mouse is circling around. And first things first is if it says pixels right there, click on that, change that to inches. Because we're going to be printing all of our projects, inches makes more sense. Under the width and height, we both want them to be the same thing. We both want 12 by 12. This one here, this file anyway, is going to be your like stock photo collection, if you will. So I'm actually just going to call this stock collection. You'll see later that we have other ones that it's very important that you name it correctly because you're going to be submitting the file to me for a grade. But anywho, leave it as stock collection. Color mode. So certain projects are going to need RGB, but for this one or any one that you don't need RGB, you're going to want CMYK. So go ahead and let's transfer this over to CMYK color. And then go ahead and hit create. Oh, everything else can stay the same. All right, now that we're in here, I have these rulers here. I'm going to get rid of them. Let me do view and get rid of these just so you don't get confused by what that might look like. Just in case this is our first time using Photoshop, I'm not quite sure what projects I'm going to do. Let me go ahead and actually show you something here. Under Window at the top, Workspace, you're going to see one here. It should say, it should have Essentials clicked right there on the top. You're going to see this right here called Reset Essentials. What this does is it makes the user interface default again. So if you're ever going around and you're clicking hotkeys and you kind of mess up the user interface of Photoshop, what I'm going to do is probably come over to you and do this Reset Essentials. It'll bring it back to this. This window here that you saw came up on mine, I don't really need it. And I recommend actually removing it to give you guys some extra screen space. If you go to here, on this little 3-part window over right there where that little icon is, click that, close tab group. That way you'll see that you have a lot more room for either your color swatch or your layers. We're going to have a ton of layers on this project, so I like making the layer window bigger by going right here and then either clicking and dragging up and down. All right. So importing your photos, fastest way to do this in my opinion is actually just decrease the Photoshop window. Don't like straight up minimize it because then it's hidden. If you go all the way to the right of your screen, you're going to see that your cursor changes. If you click and drag it a little bit, that way it won't take up your whole screen. Then you're going to find a photo right here called stock photos, or hopefully you have your folder anyway with your images in it. Double click that to open it up. Then all of these images, I recommend doing them one at a time just in case. I'm going to start over here with the Wiimote, click and drag into the white canvas and let go. It might take a second to render. Don't worry about the quality just yet. We'll show you in a little bit. What you're going to want to do is click and drag, and I want you to make it pretty big, like almost have it fill the canvas. Then hit enter or return on your keyboard, and you'll notice that it renders in a much better quality. This is a little pixelated. I don't think it'll matter in the final result because they're going to be a little bit smaller in the pattern wallpaper bit, but we'll see. So we do want to be careful that we get good quality stock photos. Your Finder right here, this guy down here in the bottom left of your bottom bar, that will bring back up your folder of all your images. So you can just click that again. I'm going to go to the switch one now, move that in. If it's clipping on the sides, I actually recommend that you decrease it a little bit, and then you can kind of move it and center it, and then hit enter. We don't want any clipping issues later. And as you can see here, they're just adding extra layers. You don't really need to worry about renaming them for this part here, but do keep in mind, like this eyeball here, I can hide the Switch one to see the Wii one. Go back to your Finder. Oh, the regular Nintendo one's up next. That looks good right there. I'm going to hit enter because there's no clipping on the sides. That's a good quality photo because it filled the whole thing. GameCube, hit enter. It's good size. Go back to Finder, Super Nintendo. Even though the image is going to go outside of the box now, I don't really care about the white. I really just want this controller to be as big as possible. We're still looking good quality. Then hit enter. That looks good. It's my favorite system of all time. And then the Nintendo 64. Gonna go ahead, click that guy in. The weirdest, probably, Nintendo controller I think I've ever seen. Or used. Decrease that by just a bit. If you hit enter and you're on a different tool, the move tool up here in the top left, the hotkey, like the literal key on the keyboard, you can hit to select it is V. You can then go ahead and move things around. The other thing with the move tool, if we haven't done it in a prior lesson, that I always have checked, once you have the move tool selected, up top here you'll see that all of this stuff changes. Where it says show transform controls, if you have that unchecked, you won't see that box around the object, where if you have it checked, you will. I always recommend having this checked because why not? It's just a nice thing to have. All right, so now I have all 6 of my things saved. Let's go ahead and save our file. So we're going to go File, Save As. Please do save on your computer. You could click the Don't Show Again thing if you want to. I'm going to leave it unchecked just for the video making purposes. And then it should save as stockcollection.psd, and it should save right onto your desktop. Format should be Photoshop. So we're going to go ahead and hit save. Hit OK if the format options pop up. It's fine. You always want to maximize the compatibility thing there. All right, there's our Photoshop file. Move that guy right up there. All right, in the next video, we're going to be creating a second file to go along with this one to get everything ready for the patterns. So stay tuned, and I'll see you guys soon.